that.
5, 4, 3, 2, 0, T-minus 0.
Some of the most spectacular events from television coverage was in our space coverage. The flight of Alan B. Shepard, who was the local guy, so to speak, even though he wasn't from here. But Alan Shepard, lived in Bay Colony at Virginia Beach. The other 6 astronauts lived over on the other side of the peninsula in Hampton. There was a lot of interest there, of course. We had these fellows who were in the studio a lot in those days. These 7 original Mercury astronauts were our own local celebrities, so to speak. I just think that space coverage was just the pinnacle for television. It was a made-for-television event. The news is very good at covering catastrophes, and the Ash Wednesday storm that we had in the early 60s was the closest thing to a weather phenomenon catastrophe that I had seen in our area.
Dick McCoy called me about, I reckon it was 5 o'clock in the morning at home, and said he had heard that there was some high water in Ocean View. Volkswagens were floating down the median. People were rowing boats up and down Ocean View Avenue.
Some of television's finest days came on days that were some of the worst for the country. John F. Kennedy's assassination. From the time it was first reported that the president had been shot, and that was Walter Cronkite who told us that, until the time a while later when we found out that the president indeed had died in Dallas, Texas. It was some of the most dramatic moments I've ever seen in television. I recall, though, being here and having people call on the telephone and complain because the afternoon soap operas weren't on.
More than the assassination was the live coverage of the assassin himself being gunned down, because that was so totally unexpected and was live. I mean, they had that right there, and it was on the air.
The MacArthur funeral was probably the largest and most difficult thing we ever attempted to do.
We fed the pictures to the 3 networks live.
We had 5 mobile units that we rented from various and sundry television stations up and down the East Coast.
Many of the little ones had already been tucked in their beds. The older ones sitting around watching television. Everything seemed to be right with the world. And it was then that it happened. The whole world seemed to explode.
But the finest moment that this news department ever had was early in the 60s. And that's when 2 military aircraft collided mid-air over Hampton and crashed into a residential area. It was a tragic story. It was a very fast-developing story. We did an hour instant documentary, and I had 5 minutes of script when we started at 10 o'clock. And that kept bringing me 5 minutes out at a time. And we finished the last 5 minutes 5 minutes before 11. That was this department's finest hour.
The 9th Infantry is carried into battle aboard small Navy troop transports, many of which are manned today by Tidewater sailors.
I think you have to remember that the sheer novelty of somebody from this station having been halfway around the world to a war zone was just dramatic to the point that you can't imagine. This guy was actually over there in the war zone.
The Russians coming here to the Norfolk Naval Base, I don't think there'll be another story in quite some time to top that, just due to the significance where Russian warships sail into the Chesapeake Bay and Hampton Roads, and hey, these are the guys we're supposed to be mad at, and they're supposed to be mad at us, and it didn't turn out that way at all. And that story will always go down in my mind as one of the biggest stories we ever covered, and of course we did that live the whole time they were here.
When Moments to Remember continues, we'll remember a few veteran News 3 personalities.
Times the sports fans had in this area, and certainly I did, was in the 60s and 70s when we had teams like the Norfolk Neptunes, professional football team that captured the imagination of the entire area. Even though sports is a light type thing compared to fires and murders, You were providing a service, just like the weather forecaster. What's it going to be like tomorrow? They wanted to know the stores. They want to know the stories behind it.
Well, the military is our second society, not just in terms of population, but all branches of the service are represented here. Of course, the naval base itself is the largest naval base in the world. And from a news standpoint, 24 hours a day, you've got to keep an eye and an ear on the military.
Would you want to run for public office? Would you want to go through what it takes to get elected, even though you have strong feelings about what your community ought to be doing and what city council ought to do or what Congress ought to do? Would you want to be a congressman? Would the lifestyle of a public official suit you? And how do you know? Broadcast journalism helps show you.
Things for seed oysters are the best they apparently have been in a number of years. Well, that's the greatest news the watermen have had in quite some time. Nate Custer, WTAR News.
The senior senator from Tidewater. I had a former state senator tell me the other day, he said, you know, this area has been fortunate with the representation it's had in the General Assembly, especially Nate Custer. And Nate has. Nate knows more about the General Assembly than most of its members. In fact, he is senior to most of its members. Nate's done a crackerjack job.
But what you see going on here in the streets of the capital city, Hanoi, is not a lot of communism. This is capitalism.
Bruce Barry is the type of guy that can do it all. He's been an anchor. He's covered sports. He's covered news. He's done documentaries. He's done elections.
Barry is a perfectionist. And that is so important in a reporter and the kind of things he does. When you see Bruce Barry do it, he got it right.
Financial backing in the gubernatorial race comes mainly from the state's business community.
The very simple reason that Ed has been an anchorman on the same 6 o'clock news for 20 years says all there needs to be said about Ed Hughes. And what's so delightful is that the Ed the audience sees is the real Ed.
Interest rates are at an all-time high.
But when it comes to submarines,
the opening of Norfolk's waterside,
they're expected to stop that countdown clock.
That's it for the 6 o'clock edition of News 3.
The first day that Ed ever came in here, I shot his audition tape. I was the director on the audition tape. And I could tell right away that he really knew what he was doing. You know.
I hear music when I look at you. A beautiful theme of every dream I ever knew.
I was thrilled to meet Andy Roberts. He was really a local celebrity on the network. I first saw Andy Roberts on NBC. He was the male singer on Broadway's Open House, which was before The Tonight Show. Well, a lot of people say, well, Andy's not a meteorologist. Well, let me tell you, he's been reporting weather for so many years that there's very little that he doesn't know even about the science of, or the physics of meteorology.
We did the Neptune games together, and I think Bob is a real professional when it comes to television and television news and sports. He knew the starting lineups, he knew the strategies for each team, and Bob was a real role model as far as I was concerned.
Once more. Lights, camera, action.
Next on Moments to Remember, a few unforgettable moments.
Charles Hardig, WTAR News.
Oh, I'm so uncomfortable. Hurry up.
I take it we're doing an edit here.
What's going on?
What are we doing?
You want to roll the film?
What's happening? Oh, you want to edit to the film?
Put in the back of your mind that the photographer has either the sound up or the camera rolling. The problem with us when it comes to bloopers, we don't think like that when we go out to cover a news story. If we make a blooper, the photographer won't tell you that he has it on tape or on film.
Oh, I've never done one. I've never made a mistake on the air.
If there's a blooper, I might make some of them, but I won't call attention to it by saying something that I don't want to go on the air.
You get your merds wixed and that sort of stuff, and you think your teeth are coming out. And yeah, there's that sort of thing.
They're not funny until you see them, you know, months or years later. Then they're funny, but you're always on the blooper reel. You'll never escape it.
The Nixon administration outlines Phase 4 guidelines, and Senator Stanley Walker calls for...
Reportedly, the dome will be the largest type of structure in...
That story in a moment. The taped voice of Patty Hearst says that... I forgot what I was going to say.
Federal Maritime Commission Chairman Helen Bentley agrees with that condition.
So far, he has not given them a written 30-day notice. Just keep going.
You're filming, aren't you?
That this asphalt sticks to your shoes. Now, I've been standing here for 4 hours now. It's now 4 a.m. in the morning. That's right. They've gone to get a Bunsen burner and a shovel. Now, the first plane is due to take off at 7 a.m. Hickman said he'd get me a case of beer. In the meantime, they said they'd keep rocking me and hope it breaks by 7 o'clock. So if I'm not there at 5 for the planning session, Perry, ask Bruce if he'll fill in, please. Thank you.
Secretary of State Kissinger is in London now.
CBS's cloud.
Well, rather interesting development in the studio here. A protest demonstration right in the middle of CBS News studio. Maybe we'll find out what it was all about in a moment. We'll go on with the news at any rate, with security precautions heavier than those provided President Nixon, and perhaps with some we could use around here.
Smokey the Bear was at the party, Cicero the Clown, Tatters the Clown. We had the Walter.
Cargo container barge sinks at a Norfolk dock. The bill will be a big one. A big.
All right, let's look at yesterday's weather first. There. Hi, gang. Can you wave? Okay. No?
Norfolk's Azalea Festival will get underway next week. Photographer Glenn Jones visited Botanical Gardens today to see if some of the carnation of the Queen Azalea, if it's what it's all about. We found out that it is. Who wrote that?
You did.
Can't you tell? I'm Michelle Harvey.
And I'm Ed Hughes. Join us for the full report coming up next on News 3.
And to also understand that...
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Ross. And a revolution of the young?
That's me, Jan.
Okay.
You have.
We'll have highlights at 11.
All right, good.
Alrighty.
Thanks, Ross. See you then. Kurt?
Jan, you go ahead and take this.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. We've done this before, haven't we? Well, still to come on News 3.
Now, tomorrow at noon on News 3, Ann Keffer and Bruce Barry will have a new report on sunburn that shows you can get burned through your clothing. We'll also have a review of the new movie release, and it's called Dirty Dancing. Tomorrow at noon on News 3, which is now X-rated in your TV guide.
Where was I?
That's our 11th hour report. CBS coming up next this season tomorrow.